The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Craig Bolanos, powered by VestGen Wealth Partners, Sunday morning at 10 on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. This next topic calls to mind one of my favorite instances of something approximating citizen journalism from several years back. It was 6 or 7 years ago now. The Grievance Studies affair, the Grievance Studies hoax that was perpetrated by Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay, and Helen Pluckrose, inspired by the Alan Sokol hoax from a couple of decades earlier. I won't get into the Sokol hoax, but I'll remind you of the Boghossian, Lindsay, and Pluckrose one, sort of doing an expose on academia. So what they did is submitted a bunch of bogus papers to academic journals with ridiculous topics to see what would pass through so-called peer review and be accepted for publication, to highlight the fact that these journals and the academics that oversee them, and by extension who are influential in their fields in universities around the country, are basically leftist hacks dressed up as professors, intellectuals, academics. And, I mean, there were 20 papers submitted. I believe a half a dozen were published, or maybe it was 4 were published, 6 were accepted for publication, 7 were still under review when the hoax was revealed. And it was things like this. The pseudonyms used, Helen Wilson. Human reactions to rape culture and queer performativity at urban dog parks in Portland, Oregon. A paper about rape culture among dogs at dog parks. Accepted, published. Who are they to judge? Overcoming anthropometry and a framework for fat bodybuilding under the topic area of fat studies. Going in through the back door, challenging straight male homohysteria and transphobia through receptive, penetrative sex toy use. And an ethnography of breastaurant masculinity, themes of objectification, sexual conquest, male control, and masculine toughness in a sexually objectifying restaurant. Basically, a deep dive on Hooters or Twin Peaks. Those were all accepted and published. And, of course, the hue and cry from academia for being found exposed as the frauds they are. A lot of exposing of frauds going on over the last several years because so much fraud has been perpetrated, financial, intellectual, political. The reason I bring that up is because I enjoyed it so much, but it has some relevance with respect to government, too. And this is an agency most people probably never heard of, but it speaks to the leftist culture that seeped into every nook and cranny of our mediating institutions over the last, well, certainly it was accelerated over the last 4 years, but it's been seeping for the last few generations. Talking about the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, which is a federal agency that's tasked to do research, like, serious research, to improve health delivery systems and access for Americans. But that's not really what they were doing under Biden. And our next guest is happy to report they have returned to their mission. Roger Klein is the director of the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. He joins us now. Roger, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, hi, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Good to talk to you again. And so, tell us what was going on at AHRQ, Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, before you took over, under the previous regime, and what's going on now.
Yeah, so your story is actually somewhat on point and analogous. And it's funny, but it's not funny in the federal government with a serious agency that's tasked with improving health outcomes for the American people. Well, what had happened was that, and this is not unique to our agency or even HHS. It's throughout the government. Was a rank politicization, and some would argue, many would argue, ideological poisoning of a federal agency. And what happened was, instead of focusing on quality, safety, efficiency, effectiveness, and yes, broad access, the agency shifted to focus on things like making equity a primary goal and systemic racism. It changed from a healthcare improvement agency to a social to an agency that was attempting to solve social problems as it viewed them, and it's actually a sad story.
Well, it's not to interrupt, but it seems to me that was the drift that was happening within public health, including public health academics and then researchers, employees of federal agencies. We saw that on display during COVID. We talked about it in terms of the politicization of science for accepted political ends by the politicians of the day, that public health professionals were putting politics before the science in any number of instances. Famously, it's, you don't need to worry about social distancing if you're protesting for a righteous cause. The Black Lives Matter protests are okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And but in this case, this agency exists to prevent somebody from cutting off the wrong leg when you go in the hospital, making sure that the right patient gets the right surgery, making sure people don't get injured, making sure that things that are done, that medical interventions actually work and actually improve patient outcome. In this case, they drifted from that and actually shifted to trying to focus on Kamala Harris's equity.
Right. How do we root out systemic racism in the delivery of healthcare services and things like that?
Exactly. Things for which, even though it's an evidence-based agency, things for which there's absolutely no evidence, by the way, and so. But we're looking in every nook and cranny of this agency, and which sets a lot of standards, and we're purging it. And I have to give the credit to President Trump and Secretary Kennedy, who are supportive of these efforts. Obviously, without President Trump, who in my view is one of the greatest presidents in American history, and who's really been willing to face this issue throughout the government head on, we would be in very, very bad shape. And this country, as we know it, would cease to exist. We cannot have a politicized and ideologically motivated bureaucracy that diverts from its statutory tasks to attempting to be a social justice warrior.
Your experience as the director of the agency, how difficult is it to conduct that purge, change out whatever personnel, policies, and procedures you need to set the agency back on the course of achieving its animating mission?
it's very challenging, and it takes a determined effort because they, you have to understand the Biden administration put these things in performance reviews. They put in a health agency, they put climate change in performance reviews, but they put systemic racism and these sorts of things. Employees were evaluated on how heavily they promoted these ideologies, and they put them everywhere. And so it takes really tremendous diligence to go in and get rid of them, but if we don't do it, we've really lost something very, very important, and in a sense have crippled the actual purpose and function of some important federal agencies.
I mean, what powers? What are the hurdles to redirecting the agency? I mean, do you have like civil service protections that make personnel changes difficult? I mean, just in very practical sense, I think regular people have a frustration and a lack of understanding of why things can't be reset in a quick fashion when there is new leadership at the federal level and by consequence all these agencies.
So our agency is in a somewhat unique position in that we lost about 2/3 of our workforce in the RIFs, which the RIFs got a lot of press that sometimes wasn't favorable. But I got to tell you, in this context, it's extremely important. They were very, very helpful. So in my experience, the folks we have left are good people, and they're for the most they're cooperating. They're following the lead of what the administration wants us to do, and so in that respect, I've been somewhat pleased. It's just old habits die hard, and people have established ways of doing things, and AHRQ is what the agency is called in shorthand, has played a huge role in influencing the directory of health services research and through standard setting and other suasion. And I think hopefully by hitting it head on at this core, we'll be able to influence the field more broadly and more generally as well.
Dr. Roger Klein, so less is more, as it turns out, which probably is a good aphorism for government. Dr. Roger Klein, Director of the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. Dr. Klein, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you.
And Dr. Klein joins us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Temperatures are cooling, but not concerns about inflation, market volatility, and taxes. Revisit your financial plan this winter. BestGen Wealth Partners work with individuals to develop personalized plans that help navigate changing conditions with confidence. Visit GetRetiredStayRetired.com to learn more.
Advisory services offered through BestGen Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Private Client Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Private Client Services and BestGen Advisors, LLC are unaffiliated entities. Any information discussed does not constitute investment advice. BestGen Advisors and Private Client Services do not offer tax legal advice.
Are you confident your IT systems are rock solid? There could be cracks you don't see. Don't leave your technology to chance. Take the Access One $10,000 challenge to find out. For more than 30 years, Access One has helped businesses strengthen their security, protect their data, and improve resistance to cyber vulnerabilities, all with reliable U.S.-based support. And here's our promise. If our experts can't identify at least one measurable improvement to your IT systems and processes based on NIST or CIS regulations, we'll reward your compliance excellence with $10,000. This free, confidential risk assessment is available to businesses with 25 to 500 employees, and it's a great way to verify your IT is secure and efficient. No gimmicks, just proven results from an experienced IT partner. Ready to put us to the test? Visit accessoneInc.com/challenge or call 800-654-1555 to schedule your assessment.